Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing live show number 139. Yes, we're 139, and I am here alone. Well, no, wait a minute. In Hospitality Digital Marketing. Oh, I have myself in the background. There we go. Mr. Robert Cole is joining me. Thank you, Mr. Robert Cole.
Hello, Mr. Gray. How are you?
I am missing my audio. Hold on just a moment whilst I get my audio.
I can hear you fine.
Snuff.
Oh, Kelso's here.
There we go.
There's Kelso.
Hey, hi, sweetie.
He's probably going to be here for the whole show.
Oh, he wants to keep Daddy company today.
Yes, he is on my lap, and I've taken him off twice, but that's not.
There are just days where they just want to be where they want to be. It's not one of those choices that you can make on your own. But how are you today?
I'm doing okay. So we're busy. I was invited to speak at a HSMAI University of North Texas chapter on Monday. It's like, oh, really?
Very nice.
Yeah,
That's
so
nothing
I
like
gotta go figure that out. Nobody gone all weekend. Yeah. Well, somebody called in. To had a meeting or had to go out of town or something like that. So
well, it's good that you can be a standby. Gosh knows it's not like you can't pull something out of your hat and talk about it. I mean, you're not like that. You have to prep for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. I thought Tim was joining, then I see Ed popping up. So I have no idea who's going to be joining us in the next couple of moments for it. But I
have trouble telling them apart. I don't know.
They are kind of like twinsies. They are kind of like, and neither one of them is opinionated or they're very quiet. Yeah, they're very passive about things.
Well, I do want to say that last week, after you left, Tim Peters left the room. He must have heard us talking about him. But but after you left, and then I tagged, they covered no news topics at all. They were just talking, this stuff just about themselves, and I don't know what else.
Hey,
Mr. Stewart,
how's everybody?
Oh, very good. You sent me an email saying, gosh, golly, you may not make it on time, and here you are, earlier than everybody.
Yeah, I told my client I had more pressing things to attend to, so I got him off the phone. Here I am.
Exactly.
Right.
Sure, Mr. Tim, Mr. Ed, gentlemen, I feel like
Stuart's pro bono work.
Yeah. I feel like we do the Brady Bunch thing. Here's the story. Because we all just...
That's funny.
Hey, Tim, you're the one with curls, just so you know, all right?
Exactly.
My word.
Marsha.
Oh my goodness. There should be some pearl clutching. I do wish, Holly and or Darlene were here, and or both and more. Because I just realized, you said one of us should be Marsha. We don't have any women on the show today. It's just a bunch of 5 white guys. That's the way that. And Dallin. I knew I forgot somebody else.
We're like Trump's interns.
Yeah, we're the forgotten category. We're the one that.
Darlene's actually.
Don't go there. We're not doing that.
You don't want to bring up that topic?
No, I really don't.
All right. I'll tell Darlene that what I can do is, if she wants, I'll drop out. If she wants to pop on, we can add her, because we're doing through YouTube right now.
No. I actually like you much better than Darlene. It was just more a thing of I was trying for some diversity. That's a joke.
Words no one ever uttered.
Darlene, you got to take this up.
I feel bad. I feel like Darlene should be here to defend himself. If I'm going to make shots, I ought to at least make sure somebody's here to defend themselves.
I tell you what, this whole morning I feel like I've been, what is it, Top Gun, where it's like they're flying supersonic on the deck through the canyon or something. I have been just going full tilt this morning, and the show's just been like, oh crap, we got to do the show today. Mr. Robert, you were. And caffeine has been my friend. Hey, Dan has again promised me he will be joining us at about the half-hour mark, because it is.
He will not.
I know, right?
Tim and I stayed on for an additional half hour longer than either of us probably would have. We were waiting to see if Dan popped in.
Yeah, well, okay. So you had nothing to talk about for an extra half hour, really?
Robert claims we didn't talk about the news. I kind of feel like we did.
Did
Wait a second.
It was
Robert,
semi-hotel
when do we ever talk about the news here? We bring up one topic and then it's digression city from that point
Yeah,
forward.
this isn't one of those shows like Stewart runs where it's organized, planned, and thoughtful.
Or even beneficial for the people who watch it.
Right.
This is
We did
their
it solely-
this is for the audience.
That's exactly what this is. This is what was that-
Pandemonium and chaos.
what
with
was
an
that
audience.
show? What was that show that used to be on MTV with Dr. Drew and like all the failed like C-list celebrities? You know what I'm talking about?
Intervention.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, where it was,
with
you know,
Dr. Drew.
with Dr.
I don't
Drew.
even think we're C-list. I don't even think there's a letter that we get out of the alphabet on our categorization.
We are
but
C-list celebrities.
Z-list. We're Z-list. We're
Speak for
Z-list.
yourself. Speak for
Wait
yourself.
a second.
I'm Z-list.
Technically,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
Unlisted.
yes.
Unlisted.
right? At least three of us technically, and I'm sure the others would have qualified had they been so inclined. But I know three of us were on what was called the T list at one point. Remember?
Oh,
the T-
yes.
Remember Tales from the T list? Blogger
Tales
travel
from the T list
bloggers?
was very
Yes. That's
Travel
okay.
yes,
bloggers.
Stephen Joyce.
Yeah. This is God, 10 years ago now or something like that.
At least that.
Oh,
at least that.
wow.
least
So
that.
since I came totally ill prepared in the sense that I only now first started looking at the list that Robert was so generous in sharing for topics, I am leaving it open
I
to the
would love-
floor.
We don't-
I would love
We don't
to hear
anticipate-
Tim's thoughts on Red Lion buying Knights Inn.
Ah, yes.
I actually don't have any. No. In all sincerity, I
Didn't
really
you
don't
used
have
to
any.
be like in charge of stuff for Knights Inn?
So I ran digital for Knights Inn,
That stuff.
along with our other 14 brands at the time. No, look, I think this makes a lot of sense for both companies. You know, they throw off a fair bit of cash. It's not a growth brand. It certainly wasn't being managed as a growth brand at Wyndham. You know, maybe Red Lion's willing to invest to try to turn it into one. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days somebody turns around and buys Red Lion. You know, we've all been predicting consolidation hardcore in the industry anyway. So
What I think is interesting is, and I was talking to Lauren about this, I actually think the Knights Inn and the Best Value Inns that Red Lion now has are great feeders to their new Signature Inn product.
yeah,
So for any of the members of the Best Value Inns, because they're not a franchise, they're a membership, and then any of the franchisees of Knights Inn that are looking to go a little bit refreshed,
yep.
like they're perfect for Signature Inn, and I think Signature Inn is actually a really nice design. So I'm wondering if that's part of what they're thinking here.
Well, I'll tell you what, I did have, so I am going to get political for 1 second, and I know I never get political, but I was reading recently about a list of the franchisee board members for a brand. And all of these folks, you know, were people who owned a Subway or owned a small dry cleaner or something along those lines. And then they owned, you know, a Dunkin' Donuts. And then they laddered up and owned 2 Dunkin' Donuts. And then they laddered up and they owned a hotel. And then they laddered up and they owned 4 hotels and so on and so forth. So from that perspective, I completely agree with you, Ed, that it becomes a great feeder into the pipeline of who are going to be their owners of the future and the best owners over the long run, right? So I think that's great. And I think that to me, I get really excited about when I read, and I know we all dig on the brands from time to time and drag the brands when appropriate and the like, but that's the American dream. Like, that's actually the way it's supposed to work. People come in, they make the investment they can afford. You know, they start out owning literally like, you know, a 7-Eleven or
a counter.
A mailboxes, etc.
Yeah, you know, right. Like whatever the least expensive franchise you can get in on is what they own. And in the hospitality space, I would think Knights Inn would qualify for that. And then the next thing you know, these are folks who own 50 property management companies or 50 property ownership groups or things like that. And that's really cool in the long run. So that I think is badass.
And for Red Lion, they bought it for only $27 million. That was 347 hotels, and apparently they had 40-some properties in the pipeline. So, you know, I'm not sure exactly if
Really?
Wyndham was focusing on that, but that there was some
Really
growth,
convenient
growth
for Red Lion. Knights Inn has recently been transitioned to a tech stack that is compatible with Red Lion's tech stack.
Yeah.
So that makes that a whole lot easier.
Yep.
And the other thing that I think is interesting about it, I often avoid speaking about Wyndham because I used to work there. I also have been and my wife does work there.
I was going to say that's why you avoid it.
But I am a shareholder, right? I do own stock, dating back to when I was there, and of course because my wife is there. But I can tell you with candor, I don't know that this is true today. What I'm about to tell you was true years ago, but I've been gone for 11 years, so this may no longer be true. Knights Inn used to throw off a fair bit of cash. It was not a huge, it was not a huge growth business. It didn't, it wasn't something anybody gave tons and tons and tons of attention to, because in real terms, when you compared it with a Days Inn or a Super 8 or a Ramada, it was tiny. However, it was absolutely a bank account that every year we knew we would get X dollars in cash that just came back to the business that we invested in Knights Inn and also the other brands, right? And it was just a great way to fund the things we did for franchisees across the board, not in big numbers, but a very consistent number, So it's probably a good move for Red Lion in that regard.
Well, what's also interesting
they bought an annuity for $66,000 a property or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
What's interesting about it too is the fact that Red Lion had bought Vantage, and Vantage's whole shtick was picking off Knights Inns.
Right.
If you remember that, that's who they were targeting. Was that level of specifically, like they weren't shy about saying we're picking off certain Wyndham franchises.
True.
Right.
But that's nice to have that ladder in place where, again, if somebody's not meeting the brand objectives for Knights, hey, you can become America's Best Value Inn, or you can go up to Signet or whatever. And you're right. Those owners can then say, hey, you know what? I've done really well with these 4 or 5. Let's go do a Red Lion.
Yeah, let's do an RLH, a 400 room RLH.
Right. I mean, I don't think they're going to get there. I don't think they're going to get there year 1, but they might get there, 10 years down the road. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, think about what we've seen in the industry over the last handful of years, where one of the things that I think is really fascinating in the franchising world specifically is you're getting a lot of second generation owners now, and it's folks where mom and dad came over from Southeast Asia, typically, right? That is a very common scenario. The kids grew up in the property, learned the business by doing it, starting at a very young age, and then went off to Cornell or UNLV or, Florida or one of those places.
The Rosen School of Hospitality.
Right. But they go and they learn, the business side. And these are really savvy folks who, are now putting demands on the franchisors in a really positive way to improve their offering, to improve the product, to improve the value that they provide. And they understand both sides of it because they have, in many cases, you're talking to somebody who's 30 years old and has 15 years in the business, plus a degree from a top travel school, hotel school, who knows what they're doing. And
you're getting the best of all worlds.
You're getting the best of all worlds. Yeah.
With education and experience.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I genuinely think that's cool. It's probably making many of the franchisors' worlds a little more difficult. But that's never a bad thing when your customers actually are asking.
Says the man who's no longer in that world. It's a great thing. Now,
I do own stock. I want these companies to do well. Let's be very clear, But I also think it's always good when the customer challenges you to do a better job. That's better for you as the company in the long run, regardless of any short-term headaches you got to deal with.
Yeah, what did you guys think of this conversation about the acquisition related to loyalty? Some people were pushing back about the Wyndham rewards going away, and Red Lion and the CEO of Red Lion kind of poo-pooed it a little bit and pointed out that rewards or loyalty programs aren't that effective outside of Hilton and Marriott. But then in the same breath, the stats were, I think, was 30% of Wyndham's bookings come
37.
from. Yeah, so almost 40% of Wyndham's bookings come from loyalty members versus a Marriott, which is like 50-something%, you know? So
yeah, but here's the thing. Is that because the loyalty program was so aggressive that the people truly became loyal, or is it because it was marketed so aggressively, which, by the way, the last time I stayed at the Wyndham Grand in Bonnet Creek, which is a great hotel, they automatically signed me up for the loyalty program.
Yeah.
They didn't even ask. They said, we noticed you weren't a loyalty member.
Right.
Here's your loyalty number. So of that 37%, how many were me?
Yeah, probably.
Well, and
well,
for,
technically only
for
one.
Wyndham people, yeah,
You think?
we're sure. No, but the Wyndham program is very rich too, so you can stay a couple nights. Well, not a Night's Inn any longer, but a Super 8 or whatever, a certain number of nights, and then you can go stay at the Wyndham, right, in Bonnet Creek. So they have some interesting ways of getting
the
that done, or the Wyndham Grand, sorry. But again, that's an interesting program. It's very, very rich for the customers, and who knows? But and they've got certainly a lot of product. But I think in many cases he's right though. Those are the
Wyndham's methodology of how they reward is very similar to Red Lion's. It's a stay-based rewards program.
Yeah. It's not like Marriott, where it's instant gratification, discounted rate, things like that.
Which, to be fair, again,
which, by the way, if you want
2%.
a discounted rate at Marriott or Hilton, the best program to be a part of is AAA or AARP.
Yep.
Because they have better discounts than the loyalty programs do.
Yep. Which is... Anyway, that's a whole battle.
we can come back to that one because I have strong opinions about that. But oh crap! I forgot what I was going to say.
We'll talk about AAA and AARP.
Yeah, we want your strong opinion.
Speaking of AARP, Tim.
So no.
they have some great Alzheimer type dementia programs, Tim.
Oh Lord, I walked right into that. So here's the thing: I think AAA is I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be bold. I think AAA is the biggest waste for most hotels in the history of mankind, and they should dump that faster than anything else they do. It drives absolutely no value whatsoever. It's simply a thing that people look through their wallet to see if they can get a deal after they've already decided that they're going to stay with you. Done.
Agreed.
Period.
Right. It's the same as there's a little Chrome browser plugin called Honey, which basically goes out and looks for coupons when you're on that page, right? And you're in the checkout, you're in the shopping cart, and you go, got anything else? There you go. And similar sort of thing.
Yeah. And they're not even great to have as an auto club anymore because pretty much every car you buy comes with better roadside assistance than AAA offers.
Yeah,
AAA has a problem of just all the different clubs and that sort of thing, but the big California, because California, the guy who's leading that was an insurance company, or basically came out of the insurance business, and they looked at it and said, hey, roadside assistance, all that sort of stuff, that gets people in the door, but we monetize this by selling them auto insurance. Hey, we can do home insurance, and that's their business. I mean, they're just basically
but their biggest problem is their top customer is now a member of AARP. Which offers pretty much the same stuff,
but they do have a really cool magazine that everyone uses to make all their decisions related to travel.
Because they're using it to prop up their monitor at a more comfortable height, so that's how they're using it to make all their decisions in travel.
You know what? I don't think when I started 17 years ago, AAA was a big chunk of budget for all our clients, and I don't think we have a client today that spends a penny on AAA anymore.
I drive by their massive Florida office every day because it's on my way to drop my son off to school. And I still wonder, because it's the size of a shopping mall, this AAA office in Heathrow, Florida. And I wonder, how do they support that employee base out of that office? Because they
still have a lot of members.
They haven't sublet any of it yet.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding when I say it's the size of a large shopping mall, this office building.
You've got to imagine they have membership attrition, though. I couldn't see that they're growing membership.
Well, I realize I dropped out for a second, but what I'd love to see is a panel study, not a panel study. I'd like to see a user study of the average age of AAA members. And I strongly suspect that the average age of AAA members is going up roughly 1 year every year.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said when you had dropped off. I said their biggest problem is their largest source of members are all now AARP members.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And I don't really have I'll be honest, I don't really have an opinion about AARP from that same perspective. But because they do other things, they provide other values in terms of lobbying and things like that, and they may actually be helping drive some demand.
They do a lot of education, too.
They do a lot of education, yeah. But AAA makes no sense.
Hey, okay, I can give you some stats on AAA. They have 58 million members, median age 54. So 64% of their membership is over 55, and 39% is over 65.
So here's a question for you. What was the median age 10 years ago? I bet you anything, it was 45.
Yeah,
exactly. 55.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, 84%.
They were in the sweet spot.
Yeah. The average income, 76,000. Let's see, main residence, 169,000 median value, 84% own, 44% are couples. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. 15% are couples with children. That's really low. That is, these guys are getting old and they're empty nesting now, which is not good for AAA because that was the whole thing. 47% are employed. That's not a good number. 47.
Oh,
less than half are employed.
Right.
So we're talking,
but you got to use like government style employment reporting on that. That means 99% are employed because the others just don't want to be employed.
Exactly. So I mean, and then I'm just looking through their little advertising demographic thing and stuff. I mean, that's it's funny. Just. Yeah, it's pretty. It is.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot about millennials getting excited about AAA.
No, that is an opportunity though.
AAA was that thing that allowed you to discover where to go. When you were going to go somewhere, you didn't know where everything was.
Yeah,
right. And where to get gas and how far could you drive
before the internet. Yeah. You know that inside AAA, there's people that have had think tanks like, how do we target millennials? Like, those conversations.
Of course.
With AAA.
Yeah.
Of course. And the answer is, and I'm sure the answer is, we have no idea.
We're screwed.
We're screwed.
Go ahead.
Somewhere out in the midst of the day, I would love to go over and talk about how Facebook's closing doors and changing the value proposition of the ad campaigns because of the reduction in its partnership programs. Some filters are now just shut off, which I'm beginning to find, which I thought was rather unique. So it's like
that should be. They have yet to make a move that I don't agree with.
But for me,
I'm sorry.
Again, when you get to it, but it's like the value proposition of the Facebook right now is narrowing because you're not having that free range thing.
If you are actually doing good work and you're actually doing good things, the value prop is going up because there's less garbage.
That's the thing that
let me translate that. What Ed's saying is if you use Flip2, then Facebook is a great value proposition. What he does.
And by the way, speaking as somebody who has 2 different customers using Flip2, I completely and utterly agree. I endorse that message, by the way.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
Because it has really, why is it? It's because we don't just stop at the touch. Like the initial touch that everyone seems to stop at, that's not enough. It's the journey that comes after it that gets you the immense value out of the interaction. The problem is there was so much noise from garbage interaction on the platform that it was just tough. It was tough to rise above the noise. But man, every move they have made, our platform's just gone.
Wait, how did it eliminate the noise?
No, I'll do it again.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how that went.
I'll do it again.
Okay, just making sure.
By the way, I do want to point out something. Somebody said this a second ago when I was half talking over them, but somebody said, I really just do it to work with Ed. No, I really want to point out how good Flip 2 must be that I choose to do it and also have to work with Ed.
Despite Ed. Yeah.
Despite Ed.
And that is why Tim is rarely on calls with me. It's usually Geeta who actually knows what she's doing.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's the approach of Flip 2. Ed is just the eye candy.
I think the future. We're going to move past this. I think the future AAA, though, there is a future AAA that will get millennials, and I think it's the these new players in how car ownership works. So I think Volvo with their their passport program, and now there's independent companies not involved with manufacturers that are doing these bundled offerings for a flat fee. You get a car, insurance, maintenance, all of that. It includes all the road hazard and all of that. I think that is where you're going to get millennials, because they don't want to own cars the old way.
Right.
And I think
we think.
Yeah, maybe.
It just depends on the price points and the value of the.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but to Ed's point on the car ownership thing, I have to say, because my dad has my old GTO, and he came down and brought it to a car show and walking around.
Is it
74
old?
GTO?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 74. It was the last GTO built.
Yep.
But anyway, so the new cars, as nice as they are not being customized the way the old cars were. The old cars, you got to be crawled in to make your changes.
Because they're computers.
Right.
And they're plastic.
Right.
You can't do the stuff.
To your point, the new cars are built to where they want them, custom the way they want them from the factory side. You're not doing it in a personal way unless you're buying a computer upgrade, basically. And so that generation of customizations and cars, it's a commodity. It's a status of it represents who you are by what car you buy still. But that even is fading from the fact that you own and engage in the car and everything else, where AAA had a value proposition.
Yeah, but I think this is. But I think this is really interesting. I think this is really interesting because this is the classic marketing. Nobody wants a drill. They want a hole, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a lot of people don't want to own cars. Right? No. And I don't mean they don't want to be able to get from place to place, but they don't want the drill. They want the hole. I need to be able to get where I want to go, when I want to go. I want the convenience.
And teleportation still doesn't.
Its teleportation doesn't work.
The problem is it's still just transferring a copy.
Did you see the fly?
The original. I mean, until they can figure out how to not have that be the case.
And then you get the whole Will Riker, Thomas Riker problem, and nobody wants to go down that. Nobody wants to go down that rabbit hole.
God help you if a fly gets in.
So many movies, The Fly, the Willy Wonka. I mean, that's going to take a long time for people to sign on for teleportation.
No, but I think you think about where people get their membership benefit type stuff now. You don't need to go outward. It's bundled into so many things. AT&T Wireless, you can get travel savings.
Right.
My employee benefits.
Right.
I get travel savings.
Right.
Which, by the way, they're really crappy savings. That's the thing about being an insider in this industry. When you look at the rates, you're like, oh, you're just lazy, and people fall for it. These aren't really good savings. You did nothing.
Right.
But yeah, I do think moving away from AAA and starting to target other forms of collections of people do represent an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
sure.
nobody's really cracked the code though on the road travel thing, right? Because Best Western's tried a lot of but Harley a little bit. I mean, Harley had kind of like these great rides and was doing things for their group and working with Best Western to have biker friendly properties, but nobody's really done it where you're driving along. What's an interesting place to see? Do you have time or that sort of thing? This is
doesn't Google Assistant start to touch on that a little bit now, though?
Yeah,
a little bit. Not
a little bit, but not what was the Google product that they had? It wasn't around a long time. it was very cool where it had kind of this offbeat sort of stuff that was around. What?
Yeah. Google Explorer. Hold on. Get the logo for it.
It wasn't Explorer. Yeah, it was
like Google. It was part of Google Streets or something like that. It
No,
was.
it had a little.
No, it was like a separate. Yeah, it was like a separate entity. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
I did find someone who was actually marketing road trips really well, though. Scenic Washington, which is a private organization that stepped into the void that was created when the state DMO for Washington was defunded by a politician. Yeah, if you go to their site, though, the road trip functionality is really cool.
Well, that's great.
Is it really? I'll tell you what, we saw. So I think you all know I was a platinum judge for the Adrians the last couple of years, and we saw like 3 or 4 entrants per year that were trying to do road trips. And in every case, it was like, oh, you got so close and didn't do it correctly.
Right.
You know, because it was things
Field
like
field trip.
Field trip. Yep.
That was it. Yep.
But it was these things where they would have maps and they were curated road trips, but they weren't interactive in any way. They weren't functional in a way that I used to have a gig years ago. This is long before I did digital because digital didn't exist when I started doing this stuff in the early 90s. I don't know if you guys know this. I managed a territory for a manufacturer of electric guitars and digital audio recording equipment. And I covered Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and Western Texas. Basically in my car.
A very dry area.
My car. A very dry area. With a paper map and a paper book. Wow. I had the Choice International and Best Western directories in my car so that I knew where I was sleeping on any given night. And there's a lot of people for whom that's still a reality today. The difference is they don't have the paper, they have this. And I can tell you, those trips, you do plan out a lot of it, but a lot of it you don't plan because, I don't know when I'm going to get tired at a certain point of night. I don't know when I'm going to get hungry. So do I stop at 8 o'clock and get a hotel then? Or do I go till 11 o'clock and get a hotel then? Right?
Holy
do I stop earlier and get up at 5 o'clock in the morning?
It's happening.
I don't believe
it's happening.
No. This cannot be. Somebody hijacked Dan's login.
This is a perfect time so we can talk about Dan's strategy.
Oh my gosh,
Drive.
it's Dan.
There he is.
There he is.
Perfect.
And he froze.
Welcome. He's trying to hit the close button.
He's like, I made a horrible mistake.
We need to have Dan describe. We need to have Dan describe Outrigger's drive market strategy.
Yeah, what is your drive market strategy?
Oh, Dan, you keep freezing. Oh, dude. There you go. No audio yet. We haven't heard a word.
You're gonna hit the little microphone.
Yeah, the microphone up on the top, right next to. Don't hit the red button. Not the red button.
There we go.
That would be helpful. Do you hear me now?
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Good morning,
Mr. Dan Waxman.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mr. Waxman.
I heard you guys making.
Oh.
So I'm trying to build the anticipation.
Always leave them
fans out there. All my fans out there have been waiting for weeks for this now, and
I actually got blowback. I had 2 people contact me saying, "You keep saying Dan's going to be on the show, but he never saw the show."
You know what? I told my.
Hawaii does not really have internet access. He's probably using some sort of
Is this going to be ad-libs? Because I'm in for this. We're only catching the first 3 words of your sentence. I'll be happy to complete them.
Yeah, the connection is definitely on a jitter right now. I don't know what it is, but the connection's getting caught up a little bit. We get some great still shots of Dan, though. We are getting some good still shots of Dan. Yeah.
Actually, this is Dan's approach to. It's actually a very high speed connect. He's just pretending that it's jittering so he can get off quickly.
It's like
you got up early for this.
He did.
That's true. That's true.
I've just lost all of us.
I've lost all of
us.
Well, that's an improvement where you don't have to look at us.
Oh, we're
here
off on YouTube as well. Well, welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, the radio show.
The radio show, yes.
We're a podcast.
Sunday.
Well, if any of us drop off, it's because we y'all are admins as well. So if I drop off, it's still back. But we have the audio still, right?
We still have audio.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
A lot of our viewers are probably relieved they don't have to look at us right now.
They're like, man,
Exactly.
the show has gotten so much better.
There we are.
There we
hey,
go.
we're back. And
Oh,
Dan,
except
you are.
for there's
Dan's moving.
Can you guys hear
All
me
right,
now?
Steven.
You
Yeah.
can, Dan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I cut off when you were Lauren when you were talking about my one fan calling in, and I wanted to apologize for my mom bothering you for that. So
You're the microphone
Weirdly, it was my mom, which I don't get.
I sincerely thank you for making it. We know this is no small feat. Getting up early and trying to be chipper at 6 a.m. No fun. Thank you very much for making it.
I can't guarantee the chipper part, but no problem.
And
So we're talking
wanted to
drive market. What do you guys do in Hawaii?
Yeah, because we knew you were going to be on the show, we wanted to set up a good topic that would be really relevant for you. We've been talking about drive market.
Great. Perfect for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not only Hawaii, it impacts our Maldives and Fiji markets as well. So
Oh yeah.
Dan, I have wondered for years why it is that Hawaii has an interstate. That has always confused me. Dan froze again.
There he is.
Oh man,
He's back.
Dan?
am I back?
Yeah,
you're back.
There we go.
Yep.
The signal looks strong, but I don't know. I may have to move to another part of the house, but there may be people in various forms of getting ready for school and work and things like that. So.
Well, how dare they?
exactly.
Do they not know you're on the show?
Yeah. You can take over what you would like to talk about, or you can jump in with what we're talking about. It's up to you. Thank you. We just enjoyed the privilege of being able to jump back on the show with us again.
Yeah, I have no particular topic. I'll just follow along with you guys.
So, Dan, what are your thoughts then on AAA? Because that's actually what we were talking about.
It's a.
Uh-oh. He froze again.
Damn it. There he is.
There we go.
Back.
All right, I will. If it keeps working, I'll see if I can move to another part of the house. But hopefully it will work. AAA is a surprising thing because we still see it's not an incredible number, but we still see a decent number of bookings of people at least claiming to have a AAA or a Canadian Automobile Association or even Australian Automobile Association. I think the clever people who are always looking for a discount always find a way to find it. And if you have dirty little secret, most hotels are not going to check when you check in for those sort of affinity groups.
Yeah, it's true.
That is a great point, actually, that we hadn't talked about. The fact that it's not like we have a database to look up in many cases, right? And how many front desk folks are going to say, show me your card when you check in.
Yeah, or deny you if you don't happen to have it with you.
Right. Oh, I left it in my other pants. Oh, okay.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Here's your key.
It's a walk-in rate is what we're doing. We just class it as a AAA or ARP.
Yeah.
It's just a walk-in
Yeah,
rate.
exactly. I mean, we still see a good number of them coming through, even though most people are not driving in our day.
Well,
It's
I've got
amazing
a topic.
AAA has in Hawaii.
Dan froze again for us. I do want to catch Dan on his
and
own.
I have a topic for Dan too.
We're not sure if he can hear us, though.
I know. We'll have to wait for him to move because it applies specifically to Dan and Outrigger.
Really?
It does.
We lost everybody again.
Gone again.
Yeah.
Is that just me or is that everybody?
That's
No, that's
everyone.
us.
that's everybody.
It's good. I'll take the audio any day.
Maybe it's Kim testing missiles over Hawaii again that's causing their interference.
Exactly. Okay. Well, why don't we hit the topic of Apple Leisure Group acquiring Mark Travel
Oh, yeah.
and how this applies to the and how this relates to Outrigger is that I don't know, hopefully most people viewing this show know all the brands and stuff like that, the travel. And just to remind people, I have a little list. So,
and Robert, have you posted that anywhere other than Facebook? Because that is a fantastic piece of
That is an
content.
awesome list. That is an awesome list.
I don't think I
it's tough to get to.
know.
You should definitely put that on your site or someplace where people can get at it publicly.
So he's
it's really
saying
hard to find
it's
on
going
Facebook.
to be on timpeter.com/.
Also known as the internet. Yeah.
Well, it's scheduled to go live actually at 12:15 Eastern time today.
It's actually the PeterNet. The PeterNet, I think, is probably the way they should be terming that whole technology. So,
but nonetheless, continue with your question, Robert.
Well, the TimTernet.
Okay. So first, I'll do the little preamble. So, Apple Leisure Group, which is a joint venture between KSL Capital and KKR, large investment firm, owns a bunch of stuff. But let's just talk about what Apple Leisure Group has. They own AM Resorts, which is Secrets, Dreams, Zoetree, Breathless, and Now. So all-inclusive resorts, very big in Mexico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, that sort of thing. Oh, and Sunscape, they've got another one too. They own a couple large distribution brands, Apple Vacations and Travel Impressions. They also own CheapCaribbean.com. So you can see how this is a nice little vertical integration there. They also have a destination management company, which is Amstar, which basically services a lot of their all-inclusive resorts and the guests who go there. Now, so that's that portion of it, which was formerly kind of the Apple Vacations group. They also have what was formerly known as Interwest, which is now called Alterra Mountain Company. So they own a bunch of ski resorts, Big Bear, June Mountain, Mammoth, Squaw Valley, Steamboat, Winter Park, Deer Valley, Stratton, Snowshoe, Canadian Mountain Holidays, Heliskiing in British Columbia, Blue Mountain in Ontario, Tremblant in Quebec. So pretty big player in the ski market, and actually they've done some joint ventures with Aspen and things like that involved in Alterra. I think Aspen has some money in it as well.
Well, I think they picked up something in Hawaii too. I think they
picked up
Kanuakai and
here there's they've got more, definitely more stuff. They own Davidson Hotels and Resorts, East West Partners, Village Hotel Club, a bunch of independents, including Monarch Beach, which used to be the St. Regis down in Orange County, Vail Mountain Lodge, which is actually managed by KSL Resorts. They don't really own that, and Outrigger Hotels and Resorts. What do you know? So, yeah, that's an interesting investment.
That's the least question of a question I've ever heard asked of it.
There's a long list with no answers.
Plus, Dan now just was like, "Nope, I'm not." I do want to be fair. I do want to be fair. I don't think we necessarily want to put Dan on the spot about who owns his company, but I think there is a question there about.
There is a question here. Well, yeah, and just a little back. So then you have KKR. They own Travelopia, which has 42 specialist, like niche tour operator brands. Mm-hmm. They have this big project, PortAventura in Barcelona. They also have investments in Get Your Guide, Lyft, and Ticketmonster, which is in Korea. So that's a lot of stuff. And what did they buy? They bought basically Lamakia Enterprises, which is a Mark Travel Corporation, which has United Airlines Vacations, Southwest Airlines Vacations, FunJet Vacations, Mark International, which is inbound tour operator,
MGM Vacations.
Tricept Solutions, which has Vax Vacation Access, which is about 50 leisure travel suppliers and about 70,000 travel agents, supports all the major GDS leisure platforms. So that's a lot of stuff.
So you're saying they own the demand side and have supply side, almost as if those two things being brought together would make more money.
Perhaps, yeah.
Well, and it's really.
So
funny
wait, Tim, before we go.
Yeah.
What was your actual question? Because still, you have
the actual question was with Outrigger. Was there any impact? First was they were acquired, and there was the whole Apple Vacations,
still not a
and
question.
that sort of thing.
You're giving
was how is this impacting Is this a good thing for Outrigger overall? Are they seeing business tapping into
he can't.
these various
Let me
types
tell
of
you
things?
how he was going to answer that.
Yeah, he's not going to say no. It's terrible.
He's going to say, you know what?
No.
It's really exciting that we're part of a family that is doing such innovative things with such core staples of this industry.
And he would say that if he was awake and it was maybe 8 a.m., but it's earlier there, so we might.
And you lulled him to sleep with a history lesson in the form of a question.
I think for most of our listeners, probably, I think most of our listeners did not know that those guys had all that stuff, because it's a lot of stuff that people have. I mean, Apple Leisure Group is kind of under the radar. They bought Travel Impressions from American Express, right? I mean, they've got a lot of interesting things going on. And now with the Mark Travel stuff, it's more. So these guys
didn't Mark Travel own EasyJet or FunJet or something like that too, or was
FunJet.
that fully?
FunJet. Oh yeah.
FunJet, yeah.
No, I mentioned FunJet. That's a wholly owned.
I'm sorry.
You
were saying so many words, I tuned out a little. So,
well, you gotta.
Which Ed does a lot when he's not the one talking. To be fair,
yeah.
Touche.
They always had the reading comprehension and the listening comprehension. It never scored well on. Maybe good on reading, but not so good on listening. So.
I would be, if Dan does come back, I'd rather than ask him is it positive or negative. Just ask him what's changed, operationally, and are they collaborating with that? A lot of.
Ask a smart question.
He's coming back
because Dan Waxman's coming back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, right?
Maybe.
Drum roll, please.
There he is.
Were you guys all off for a bit, or was it just me?
It was just you.
No,
just you go.
Oh wow!
But the good news is you avoided Robert's question, which wasn't a question.
It was the laundry list of everything ALG, or basically KSL, KKR, and Apple Leisure Group own, kind of in the travels.
So Stuart, if you would ask your question of Dan, that would be great.
So we were curious collectively, given this acquisition, has anything changed from your perspective at Outrigger? Anything operationally? Are you interacting with these other brands that are now part of the family?
Yeah, from our perspective, it is really no impact at all. I mean, they operate the businesses, at least for now, separately, and I haven't heard that anything will be done any differently from that. We've had some introductions just in case there's potential opportunities based on sound business decisions, not necessarily an unnatural synergy, which Robert and I know a lot about from a previous life. But they'll make the introductions if they see a potential opportunity, but it's all based on a good business decisions. And so I haven't seen anything. I find as a hotelier the combination of Apple TI and Mark.
Dropped again.
By the way, I'm gonna bail Dan out on this one because I can talk about this from the other perspective. When you talk about unnatural synergies, so the company in question was called Sendent. I worked for the hospitality side. Dan and Robert worked for the side that made us do things that were not in our best interest. To be fair, it was all corporate directed. Oh, we lost video
absolutely.
Again. It was all corporate directed. I'll never forget the COO. We used to have a deal where we did a cross sell after checkout. Right? Can you?
Mm-hmm. Lost audio.
I can hear you, Stuart.
Okay. All right. So, but we did a deal post checkout that was to cross sell for another set of services that we offered. And as Wyndham was spinning off from Sendent, we were trying to figure out how to get out of the deal because we hated it, and our franchisees really, really hated it. And our chief operating officer was basically yelling at me one day. Somehow this was my fault, and he said, "Who was the jackass who signed this deal?" As though I had, right? And my answer was Henry Silverman, who was the CEO of Sendent Corporation. I was like, you want this deal to not be the deal, you really got to go talk to the guy who your boss and your boss's boss and your boss's boss's boss all report to, because that's actually where this came from.
Yeah. No, the statute of limitations is probably over. Well, Sendent doesn't exist anymore, right? It was
Correct.
broken into separate.
Correct.
Here's the most egregious thing that happened after Neat Group, which was our dynamic packaging company, was acquired by Sendit. We had really good supplier-friendly technology, right? You could set your discounts and just go.
Neat
and
Group
we did
was very cool, by the way.
Yeah,
Neat
yeah,
Group
it was
cool.
great technology. Now owned, and the U.S. patent on dynamic packaging now controlled by Expedia.
Yeah,
because it went through Orbitz, and so Expedia owns that patent now. Just wait till they start defending it. That's going to be very interesting. So anyway, so we had this, and that's fine. And we had one rule that was basically set that you could not pick on, as a distributor, you could not pick on various suppliers. So if you were getting a better deal from Hilton or something than Marriott, you couldn't arbitrarily just mark up Hilton more than Marriott. You had to take kind of their pricing, pass it through under your general markup, right? So we were prohibiting the distributors from really revenue managing these guys because we wanted those discounts from the suppliers to pass through as customer value, not get absorbed as margin by the intermediary, right? So the first rule they changed at Sendit was get rid of that rule. And I'm freaking out because they own Avis and Budget Rent-A-Car, and the third rental car company was Hertz. And you don't want to mess with Hertz. That's bad, right? Very high demand, good legal team. Let's just leave them. Let's not do anything untoward. But that's not what they did. The interesting thing was we had deeper discounts actually being offered by Avis and Budget. This is pre-acquisition than Hertz. We also had deeper discounts with all of the Sendit Hotel brands, which is the Wyndham Hotel Group, than we generally did with the others. What they did without the knowledge of the brand was built in a 5% extra margin as the intermediary for Sendit to basically structurally raise the prices of all of the product they were selling through this platform. And you could see once they did that, the sales of those products went down. And you just went, okay, guys. So first it was like, this is a bad idea. Strategically, we don't do this. It's like, screw it. We're doing it, right? We're doing it because we can. That's like, it's damaging our sales volume and our sister companies. In particular, share is shifting to others. They didn't care because they had a little bit of margin and they wanted that. And basically the person who made that decision, got it approved, did not want to go back and say this thing didn't work. Right.
That's a nicer background, by the way, Dan. That sunrise mountain.
Yeah, that's a much better.
So talking about positive synergies and things like that, and this goes back to Robert, your list of various things that now owns Outrigger. And Dan, don't worry, we're not going to put you on the spot about the company that owns the company you work for.
Yes, we are. No.
But no, there was this whole thing going around on LinkedIn the other day. Me and Max Starkov and a bunch of other folks were talking about, will Alexa kill travel agents, right? Will technology like that kill travel agents?
Oh, come on.
Wait. Hear me out.
Okay.
And my whole point was, no, of course not. Of course not.
Good.
Because there's always going to be a place. I mean, this is always true. I'm going to get the exact quote wrong, but what's the old B school adage about, there's always value in integrating and disintegrating value chains, right? Like if you can disrupt a value chain, there's value in that. If you can put a value chain together, there's value in that. Right. And all of these things that, Apple Vacations, Mark Travel, et cetera, all own, they're actually building a really nice end-to-end value chain that they can do some really cool stuff. So the fact that they own Outrigger and a whole bunch of other stuff, as long as Dan said, they're doing it with natural synergies, I think has got to be a great thing, both for those companies. I shouldn't say both. For those companies, for Outrigger, and for guests, because they can create a really great experience if they put it together end-to-end well.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta, just disclosure, right, or little warning signs. I don't speak for KSL, and I don't know anything about their strategic initiatives. I'm just happen to be one of the companies that they own. So anything that I'm speaking about regarding that is sort of my opinion as an industry guy, not as anybody in any way related to KSL. But yeah, I think they make smart business decisions.
They do make smart business decisions.
They do make smart.
Well, and just one thing to add until he comes back. Outrigger already has
frozen again.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Tim,
back.
Tim left.
You're back, but we lost Tim.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Am I back?
Yep.
Okay.
And at least,
All right, yeah.
fortunately,
so-
on my screen, Tim froze and is staring at you. Oh,
Yeah.
he's got
Yeah, so my point was being they seem, you know, when we look at who has been successful in the industry and in acquisitions and things like that, are the people who tend not to do the unnatural synergies and leave the companies that are doing well, you know, on their own and try to boost them up a little bit. And it seems like that's you know, that's
Lost you again, Dan.
Okay. Well,
There we go.
what I was
We need to get Project Loon out over Dan's house.
Yeah,
For better quality.
am I back again?
You're back.
My I don't know if it impacts it. You guys are more techie than I am, but it's raining today, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Do you have a lot of
The
stuff
internet
running
gods
on
are
your
not
computer?
happy. That's all it is the internet gods aren't happy. I do want to make sure that we get the chance to talk to you. You did an amazing conversation about OTAs. And I want to make sure that we can kind of bring that up in some context and conversation today, because I think what you talked about was insightful for a lot of people to understand if they're not keeping up with the engagements and value propositions of OTAs and so forth. So if you get the chance to talk about that, that would be awesome.
Sure. Am I frozen or?
Nope.
No, you're good. You're good. And Tim's back.
I'm much more coherent when I'm frozen, I think. But
Nice.
yeah, so yeah, it was a fun conversation, and it generated a lot of interesting conversation after the event. In fact, a lot of people had commented. I think somebody at the presentation took a picture of my slide that said "Do OTAs suck?" And they put it on LinkedIn, and it got a whole bunch of conversation going, and a lot of it from people who weren't at the event and were sort of, I think, potentially mischaracterizing what I was trying to point out.
Shit. Froze again. Hey, I'm going to shut my camera off and see if
Nice
that does
language.
anything.
He's back.
I'm going to bow out. I'm going to bow out and see whether it's a multiple feed problem or not. So I'm going to take my camera off for right now and just leave my audio on.
very cool looking there. Looks like a typical Outrigger guest with the shades.
Very, very
Dan, I'm with you completely. I mean, this is a thing, you know, there is in the hospitality industry a big like torches and pitchforks crowd, right? Like we got to storm the castle and burn the OTAs to the ground and things along those lines. And I think that doesn't make any sense, right? They should provide a good value for some hotels for the right types of guests for the folks who can't reach. I mean, Outrigger, you depend on, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I would expect most of your business comes from out of state, right? Just going to go out on a limb and say that that's likely true. And it's probably true that you know, it makes sense for you to invest in a Japanese website and Japanese translation and support for Japan. But there's probably lots of places where the markets aren't big enough to make it worthwhile. And an OTA could be a great way for you to reach those folks. And I think you froze.
Yep.
But just nod your head aggressively if you agree. Oh, he left the room.
That's funny. I mean, I agree with you 100%, Tim. We talk about this a lot on the podcast about OTAs are a really important part of the ecosystem, and they do reach guests that you cannot reach as an individual or even group of properties. For people coming to a destination for the first time, they're not going to find you unless you're on an OTA. They're just not, because you don't compete, you don't show up, you have no visibility on Google search for broad terms that people search early in the funnel. So you have to use OTAs to get that new business, but then it's your responsibility as a property to learn how to turn those OTA guests into loyal repeat guests booking direct next time. And there's a lot of things you can do to affect that change. People are lazy, though. They just do what's easy, and it's how they become.
And what's very important is, you know, people don't always become loyal guests because they don't have a need to use that product or that destination over and over, right? They go there and they go, "This is great. We've been to Myrtle Beach. We've had a fantastic vacation. We'll tell our friends," which is again that's kind of the flip to model, right? Make sure that happens very efficiently. But but they may never come back. So beating yourself up with a ton of money trying to draw them back in is a complete waste. So the OTAs they're low risk. and in many cases are attracting customers that you can never get at least cost effectively.
Right. And
which was one of my, and I cut out again, of course, which was, and that's one of my points that OTAs, don't suck. And then another point was that OTAs do suck. And then my third point is we also suck, meaning hoteliers.
Right.
So, I totally agree that the OTAs is a place for them, and they're an important part of our mix. But there are instances where, they're doing things that are not to our benefit, where they're jumping in front of customers who would otherwise find us, competing against us in keywords, competing against us in meta search. And, now they're trying to get into our tech stack, and they're trying to get in.
That's right.
Yeah. You know what's funny? A long time ago, this is probably 4 or 5 years ago.
You have no audio, by the way.
Yep.
Fuel, we did a campaign. It was a postcard campaign, and you see that? It said OTA suck, and then it says on the back, all of your profits. So I'm thinking the same way.
But here's the thing, this always drives me nuts when I see the industry get really just bent out of shape for OTAs, when quite honestly, there's a far worse devil that has screwed you all as hotels, which is TripAdvisor. Because TripAdvisor is amassed. No. Hey, Tim, when's the last time you filled out a TripAdvisor review on a hotel?
Actually, technically, I never have, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
Okay. Go do it. Go fill out a TripAdvisor review and watch what happens. You're going to get remarketed to go back to that market by TripAdvisor. Guess who's not going to be in that marketing? The hotel you stayed.
Right.
Yeah, but here...
And they sucked everyone into this, like they squeezed themselves into the consumer path to where hotels didn't really have a great choice. It's if we don't have good TripAdvisor reviews, we're getting murdered. So we need to put some volume behind that. So let's take our guests and push them that way. And then TripAdvisor went, great, thanks for your guests. We're going to try really hard not to give them back to you unless you buy them from us. And that is far more evil. Now started. Than the OTA model.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry. I will tell you, whenever he freezes, he does have like the best, like most attractive
shapes. He's
when
freezing
he
really well. The rest of us have
whenever I freeze, yeah, exactly. I look like a troll.
I think like many things that we deal with in the ecosystem of travel, if you manage it the right way, it's a positive. If you don't, it can be a negative. But I would argue that 90% plus of people look at reviews before making the decision, right? And if you have a great product and they have positive sentiment online, TripAdvisor helps you. A fraction of the people that travel leave reviews. The majority do not leave reviews. So what you're talking about only affects a small portion, whereas the majority of people are being positively impacted.
The problem is in some
job.
cases, if they were really happy people, you're sending someone who's incredibly happy, who you actually have built a rapport with, to a place that's going to actively try and make sure that person does not come back to you.
I'm not saying you should send your own business to
not necessarily they don't come back to you. They're just going to try to monetize it to whoever will pay them the most and give it to them, right?
And I mean, we're very much helped by the fact that TripAdvisor keeps finding ways to make their product worse and shoot themselves in the foot.
Dude, so don't get me started on these new sponsored placements, man.
For instance, the new sponsored placements.
Okay, so wait, we want to talk about that, or Marriott wanting to cut commissions for online travel agents?
Oh no, we want to talk about TripAdvisor and
okay, we'll do that first. Okay.
Okay. We're doing a whole episode next week on our podcast. We're going to record it next Friday, so it'll be out a week on Monday about TripAdvisor. And man, we hate the sponsor positions with a passion. They're the worst thing I've ever seen.
And I suspect customers will too. I think they are just shooting themselves in the foot here.
It's disingenuous to the consumer. Average consumer that makes a search assumes, because it's TripAdvisor, that what they see at the top is good, right? But now you can be the worst property in the destination, and if you pay enough, you're going to be served at the top. That's disingenuous.
Well, okay, here's the problem, though.
You go to your website, you're sending them to the profile page on TripAdvisor and exposing them to TripConnect and Instant Booking, So it's just terrible.
But here's the problem. When Expedia started, right, as part of Microsoft, it was just a retail travel agency, right?
Yeah,
They hadn't
yeah.
gotten Hotels.com, anything like that.
Yeah.
And I remember conversations with Eric Blatchford, who was running marketing at the time. They were like, no, there is no buying placement on this.
Right.
Their whole thing, again, it was kind of the Microsoft background, was how do you get the right property for that guest, right?
Yep.
And how do you figure out algorithmically the best value, right? Because it may be the lowest price for the highest, the lowest price per star or something like that, that's closest to the focal point of the search or the demand. And that's all they did. And they're like, yeah, well, that shifted at some point, right? Because you could, if you gave them better discounts, better compensation, you could go edge your way up above other folks. TripAdvisor, again, because of Wall Street and just having the crap beaten out of them, they are sitting there looking at every single trick out of the OTA playbook, out of the metasearch playbook,
and they're violating
everything they can. Right, violating their brand
number one rule of a consumer-facing brand, which is they are not holding the care of their consumer above the needs of their business.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And that is exactly, they're trying to stay above $40 a share.
Well, right. I've done a very
Hey, we got Dan back.
Goal.
Dan, what do you have to say about TripAdvisor?
Hey guys, now that you've seen every part of my house,
I know.
That's a very nice shirt you're wearing.
Your lovely children in the background. Is that what we're seeing?
That's it. Yep. If I get any closer to the router, I'll be sitting on it, so it's not going to get any better. From what I've caught of the conversation, I absolutely agree. I was mentioned I had fun writing a LinkedIn article about the OTA conversation that we had, and I'm thinking my next LinkedIn article would be titled "TripAdvisor Lost Its Way," and I totally agree with Ed that it used to be my go-to place to start my travel journey because I'd want to figure out how to get to.
Well, and unintentionally, it's your go-to starting place because they have most of the content that exists
That's right.
on travel. They have. So that's the thing is from a natural search position, TripAdvisor is now in an amazing spot. And that's why they end up being the starting point of a lot of people's trip planning.
That's right. You bet.
But the OTAs are catching up, for a long time. They didn't have the same content. They didn't have the reviews.
Nope, you're back.
You're back now. You were frozen for a little bit, but you're back.
I'm going to take my camera and microphone back off.
And he's frozen again.
Am I frozen again?
I don't think it's you. I don't think it's you, Lauren. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
If you turn off your camera, Dan, then we'll probably get
just
you
turn off your camera. Want to try that and just do audio.
And Dan, also, if you have any other applications running on your computer, I'd kill them because this Webinar Jam is a resource
sucks
hog.
Out your resource.
Oh, it's a suck. Yeah, it's a suck on your computer. That's for sure.
So I've done a very informal, very unscientific study of basically everybody I know outside the industry over the last week about this topic, and every single one of them said, oh no, absolutely. It's exactly what we're saying. Customers go there because they trust that it's the correct response. They correct the response. Where unlike the OTAs, they don't expect that. They expect that they're going to get shown, the best deal, the whatever. So they are just crapping on what their brand promise has always been, and I think that's going to hurt them
in the long
run. Right. In the short run, maybe they get a nice quarterly pop, from the street or whatever, because hey, look at all this new revenue we're bringing in. But in the long run, they are setting themselves up to fail miserably.
Unless, and I've been saying this for a while, TripAdvisor, I still think are setting themselves up to get sold, and this is a good play if they're trying to get sold because it's going to show positive financial impact over the next 12 months.
Right, but even in the ministry, you can't serve two masters, right? They're definitely doing it for the street or for an acquirer or things along those lines. They're not doing this for the customer.
No, not at all. And that is what's wrong with a company whose premise was to bring clarity to the customer.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
For sure.
I mean,
there's an opportunity for someone else to come into that space now. It's going to take them a while to acquire the data and the information, but it's definitely.
I got to be honest with you, though. If you use social proof correctly, you could also just eliminate the need for a centralized version of that if it was just done with a good balance.
With which, and I mean, Ed. So first off, we'll do one more commercial for Flip 2, which, for instance, Flip 2 can help you with. But to be fair, you may remember one of the first things I said to you. You may remember this, and I wouldn't be surprised if you don't. One of the first things I said to you, one of the first times I saw Flip 2 was, "Oh my God, this is what we've been telling people to do for years. It just wasn't easy to execute." Right. There were not, and I would argue still aren't a lot apart from Flip 2. There aren't a lot of ways to actually do that easily.
Right.
And if you want people to do things, you got to make it easy for them. And TripAdvisor made it very easy for people.
But here's the thing: I'm just going to continue to say, I've now run 2 businesses that are smaller in revenue than a medium to large size hotel, and the amount of care I put in to being able to do those things is really high. Sure. Someone at a hotel that turns the type of revenue they do should have that charge to them of how do we take these hard things? Because guess what? If you do the hard thing, your competitors won't. And that's how you're going to eat their lunch. I mean, I did it at Easy Yield. I did the hardest thing I ever did at Easy Yield was become level 1 PCI certified. No one was even asking us to do it at the time, but I saw it as an opportunity to step out from the massive crowd of channel managers that were popping up. Guess what? It became the thing that no one could answer against us. And it's really hard when you're looking at a product to go, oh, level 1 PCI certified. Why'd you do that? Well, because we handle this, this, and this in payments. You know, so you should do this. Well, man, when you don't make that choice and it goes bad, you just hope that you never find out that you knew that there was a better choice. And so that's the thing. If you're a hotel and you want to be acquiring bigger than your slice of the pie of your market, the hard things are what's going to make you rise above the rest.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
agree. Can we segue into the Expedia? I forget what properties they partnered with, but they did the eye tracking campaign because this is related. And I would say, I don't know what your opinion is of that article and if you went through the experience, but they did the bright and shiny, but they didn't do the hard part, which is what you're talking about, Ed, which is they didn't close the complete loop. They didn't think about the complete customer journey. Like it looks great on the surface, but if you follow that through, the process of booking after you've chosen is complete garbage. It's terrible.
So here's the thing, and Stuart, I think you'll agree with this. The massive growth in access to people has bred a very, I don't want to say lazy, but not sharp marketing community.
Yes.
Because you didn't need to be overly good to grow, because every time you started to exhaust something because, you know, you didn't follow the basic marketing rules, something new came out that was cheaper and had access to a different audience that you haven't yet burned. Those days are ending.
Yep.
And so it's actually funny. We've been doing a lot of webinars and stuff on GDPR. And the slide that my design team came up with is a bunch of Tyrannosaurus Rex running from a giant asteroid that says GDPR on it that's hitting the ground. And it's not to be dramatic that GDPR is the end. It's going to kill the dinosaurs of hospitality marketing that have gotten by on just network growth. Right. You are going to have to become a really good marketer in order to survive post the Facebook Cambridge Analytica, post GDPR, post everything else that's kind of on the precipice right now. You're going to have to become better. And the way you become better is to realize nothing is the first touch. Okay, so if your version of marketing is just thinking through how do I get in front of someone and then shove them through a generic experience, like your days are numbered. You have to realize the journey is how you're going to survive. And GDPR actually nods to the idea that they want you to have a conversational approach with the people you're interacting with. It needs to be relevant to them. It needs to be something that they want. So it's gotten so bad. Marketing has gotten so bad that the European Union had to step in and write law to say, stop being crappy.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not the first time.
Can
spam was for the same reason.
Yep.
Castle was for the same reason. You know,
Right.
what the laws exist in Europe now were for the same reason. This one's a little stricter though. This is going to force people.
It is. Yeah. Well, and the same thing that happened with airlines and car rental companies when the Federal Trade Commission had to step in and go, wait a second, you have to show the total rate. Forget all this $16 a day when, you know, you're getting $30 a day in fees and God knows what in a car rental. And I don't know if the FTC is going to do that for hotel. I mean, they were making really good progress on resort fees and things, you know, all these mandatory fees, but that kind of fell apart. So I shouldn't say fell apart. There's a lot of interest at the state attorney general level for more than half the states, but federal level not much, right?
Yeah, I wonder why.
Guys, I got to drop off in just a moment, but I wanted to. I just wanted to add, but I have to drop off for real instead of just
politics.
The network.
Politics run.
No. I actually wanted to go back to what Ed was saying a moment ago, just because I haven't done any shameless self promotion this episode, and I felt like I had to sneak one in here.
Where's the blog?
So I had a podcast episode about a month ago that says exactly what you just said, Ed. It was called "Deal with It." Digital makes marketing easier for everyone, which makes marketing harder for everyone. Right? When you've lowered the bar for everybody, which means you now have to work harder to do the right things to get in front of your customers correctly and in a way that's really valuable. Right? There's no silver bullets here. There's no secret sauce. There's no magic fairy dust that you just sprinkle. You know, put a little digital on it and it will be better.
I don't know, man. I can tell you
it works. Right?
Working with Fuel Travel seems to have worked out well. I haven't come across a single customer of theirs that isn't outperforming every other customer we work with.
And that's Stuart's new campaign.
But I bet Stuart and his team work pretty hard to make sure that that's true.
Jedi mind tricks on all the guests. That's what
I will tell you this.
I will tell you this. We probably, before the majority of our competitors, took this mobile first approach, and it has paid off tremendously. We've gotten, you know, I spoke at HSMAI about how we were projecting by December we'd hit the second mobile tipping point. I was wrong. We've already hit it. We've got one property that's had 4 months in a row where they've got more bookings on mobile than they have on desktop. And last month, we had 6 different clients that all got more bookings on mobile than they did on desktop. So embracing how we consume and putting that at the forefront of your marketing strategy is the key. And then
thinking about why.
That's exactly right.
Why are you wanting to consume it that way?
Well, the line I always use is it's not mobile first, it's customer first. Right?
Correct.
I mean, realistically.
I have to throw a shout out to Del Ross that's been chatting with us on Facebook, and I have not been responding as I should. Del, my apologies. And yes, we do have an audio latency. He's saying if we aren't talking, we should put ourselves on mute, but then we can't interrupt each other. So it's a little tough to do, but I'll try to get the audio.
All right, but gentlemen, I have a 1:00 Eastern call, and I do need to lay in some groceries beforehand, so I actually have to bolt. Great seeing you all. I will see you next week.
TimPeter.com/the internet.
Yes.
Don't actually write that. That's going to take you to a 404 page. I'm sure the Timternet. I like that. All right, gentlemen. You can find me at timpeter.com or at TCPeter on Twitter. And with that, I hope you all have a
Tim podcast. It is the best thing on.
It is
planet.
Great.
It's really
good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And Stewart's, man, are the two every week. Got to listen to them.
I listen to Stewart's religiously. Thank you guys very much. And I will see you next week. All right. Bye,
guys.
All right.
Bye. So,
all right.
One question on TripAdvisor, though. I mean, they're doing lots of other really kind of evil things, right? Because their whole strike-through policy is, I think, founded on. Anybody heard of Hotel Quickly? I mean, I don't know who owns. It's out of Hong Kong or something.
When you Google it, you can see lawsuits.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you look at this thing and they go, why are they at $300? $300 when the hotel's at $200.
Because
I just did a quick little test, right, with a sponsored list, sort of thing, And there you go. I did a New York thing. It came up Hotel Edison Times Square at the top. So they're paying for position. They're up there. What's number one on the list? A MoMA at 205. Booking.com's at 229. TripAdvisor's at 229.
So a MoMA's got Tarico's rate.
Right, Tarico's rate, and they're going through and not marking it up to the retail price. So they're cheating, right, on reselling the rate. And the strike through price is 305 from Hotel Quickly. And you just kind of look at this and go, this is a mess. And again, it's just TripAdvisor trying to do, hey, how do we do these tricks? How do we, you see cancel on and crap like that pop up where you don't get an instant confirmation. It's like, yeah, they're going to try to get somebody to cancel a room and shift it over to crazy stuff. And yeah, they are. They're completely, I can't say they're completely destroying their brand, but they're undermining the reliability of it, where it used to have such a highly regarded, trusted brand. They're chipping away at that.
I've been encouraging the partners we work with to spread out where they're asking people to leave reviews. So that way you don't become as concentrated in a single network. Because you don't want to give the advice of, oh, just push Google reviews. Because, man, Google's going to charge you for that. You don't want to just do, oh, push for people to leave a review in your Facebook. Because, again, Facebook's going to monetize that. However, if you take a approach to spreading out the ask to, you know what, for the next few months, focus on this network of reviews, focus on this network of reviews, you can spread yourself out enough that if you get over monetized out of a single channel, it doesn't hurt as much because you have earned reviews elsewhere that you can use to display to create the trust.
Yeah. Well, and you want them to leave a review on the platform they're most engaged with, right? And they're there and they're leaving more reviews and they're interacting with the other folks. And again,
but here's the other thing I'll also tell you. You also don't want to re-engineer like a review to put on your own site. And I've seen brands do this. I've seen hotels do this where they'll put a TripAdvisor review on their site, but they leave out really important detail. Like, was this person's first review or their 10th review? What was your response to the person? Instead, there's a brand that it drives me nuts, but you go to their site and go to any of their hotels, and their hotels are lovely. But go to any of their hotels, and the first 3 reviews that show up literally are just "do not stay here."
Yeah,
and I'm like, you're doing this wrong. Oh yeah, I'll share.
Are they just pulling in the most recent 5, or what? What are they doing?
They're pulling in the most recent 5, but they're stripping the profile data. They're stripping other pieces to it. And so you can go and pick some of the nicer hotels that these aren't quality reviews. So I mean, using social proof on your own site, you have to do it from a balanced approach, but you also have to remember why you're doing it. You're doing it to help the person make the decision to purchase. So and purchase with you, not go somewhere else to find it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So here's the thing. When you put a review on your site, you are endorsing that review is accurate.
Right.
So if you are just putting the review without your response, without anything else that gives any context to, should I listen to this person? What aspect of what they wrote should I listen to? What do I need to understand? If you just post the body of the review, you're screwing yourself. You are actually actively working against yourself on getting it to be easier for someone to say yes to you. Instead, take a balanced approach. Like if there are challenges with your property, find the reviews that at least kind of point that out, but without destroying you, and that they also represent the point of view of the person that's an issue for. Why? Because that is being truthful. But you don't need to post the review of the person who wrote and blasted you about all this crap, and you get to the end and you realize they were just mad because your towels are in the back of your shower and they get wet. But they find everything to nitpick on. Don't post that review. You don't need to. It's not an ethics question, right?
For sure.
And everything you put on your site, you are saying to whoever's viewing it that you support whatever that content is. That it's true.
And the reviews aren't just to nudge people into booking. They're also to set expectations as to what you're going to experience when you get there. Because we could all put the most glowing reviews that these are the biggest rooms and the newest upgraded furniture, but it might not be true. So, I've seen cases where maybe it's a smaller inn in London where they've got small rooms, low ceilings. Find reviews where people acknowledge that's a thing, but find it quaint or find it, historical, or whatever it is, right? It's cozy,
to part of that conversation a little bit. I have a client that has a variety of inventory quality. That's a nice way of saying it. And
wait. Can you break down the range of quality? Like what
it's a spectrum.
What % would be in the top level, and what % would be in the bottom level? Yeah.
The owners' suites are beautiful.
Yes. Now, right. The penthouse is a really beautiful place. But the idea of it is this. We always take our most featurable, prettiest pictures and put them up. And that is an unrealistic expectation for people when they come in. They don't get exactly what the picture provides. So we have segmented out our inventory and targeted our marketing specific to the inventory type and appropriately rate categorize them as well so that we are not disappointing the guest and really trying to be as direct with what they're buying. There are those who are price driven, that they want a place to throw their bag, and it doesn't have to be a huge room with 1,000 amenities. And then there's others who want an engaging experience at the hotel where that room quality has a factor in their purchase decision.
Yep. Set the correct expectations, but don't shoot yourself in the foot. And I see
now with Dan back. While we have Dan back, I want to compliment to Dan that the time that I get to join you down in Hawaii and we get to share some time with all the hotels with the HSMI Rocket program, I was in awe of the collaboration of everybody in the market. It was an open, warm, collaborative engagement. Even though they're side-by-side competitors, you all share the efforts. I think we lost Dan again. I'm not sure if you can still hear us. But they share the efforts of getting people into market. And they're not about pointing at each other as what's wrong. They're really about talking about getting into the market and sharing what they can share. So it's always been, we did lost him. It really was a different perspective I had not really got to do in other markets where they're very competitive of who's across the street. Down there, it didn't seem like that way at all. And it was really pretty neat to talk to everybody like that. Dan, I don't know how much of that you heard.
Yeah, this is frustrating. I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on. I really have this connection issue.
It could easily be the platform as well. I don't know if it's your connection or not. But yeah, I was just complimenting the collaboration in market that you guys have between the hotels as being very unique compared to other markets. Yeah, we lost him.
Yeah. So,
anyways,
Stuart, you work in a market that's very similar to that.
Yeah, I was going to say that the other market I've come across, and we've been in a lot of different markets, but Myrtle Beach is very similar to that, and really because it's a different market in that the majority of properties are independents, and a lot of the ownership, even though the majority ownership are different groups, a lot of them have cross ownership between properties. So there's actually an incentive to do it, but all of the major players meet regularly and share data, which is the key. You know, they can see what the market's doing as a whole and work together.
So Dan, what do you attribute Hawaii's collaboration?
Just when we get in there.
Every time we get
there, we go.
Well, maybe I could say really quickly and get it through between the breaks. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's a reality. It's a small island, and a lot of the people stay here a long time. And if they don't work at your help.
Lost him.
Yeah. You really do that, where everybody, they've either worked for the other person or, or that sort of thing. It's a small community. New York City luxury hotels used to be like that. It's amazing. In the early 80s, mid 80s, you'd have the Pierre, the Sherry Netherland, the Carlisle, the Plaza, all those guys every day, the reservation manager. How's your occupancy look? We're looking like we're oversold. What are the walk rates? And they would have that stuff kind of figured out because they didn't have the technology now to keep track of inventory very closely. And, people would stay over and they're, high-end guests, and they would do that to just make it work. And it's like, you know what? We've got a problem here, but we can get you to the Plaza and we'll get a car to pick you up or whatever. And that's
speaking of which, what's going to happen to the Waldorf?
Very well. What?
What do you think is going to happen to the Waldorf?
Oh boy, with Yeah,
Time
all
share.
the stuff with Anbang. It's going to be an Airbnb property, I think, will be probably the ultimate outcome. But then the other side of it is HNA is selling its. HNA owns about a quarter of Hilton, and that's going to be, they're going to divest of that. So that's going to be very, very interesting as well. So, and HNA owns Radisson now too. So yeah, very, very interesting stuff for all that Chinese investment is going to be dealt with, I guess is the best way to describe it. Actually, if HNA sells Hilton, they make a bunch of money. The timing works really well if they can sell it quick. So,
they bought that from an early tranche from Blackstone, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, they got it at a pretty good rate because it was it was one of the early like big chunks that Blackstone divested.
Yeah. They make several billion if they can sell it. Yeah, effectively. But again, who's it going to go to? How's that all going to work out? And,
you don't just flood it onto the market. 6 billion shares are available.
Yep, Monday.
So Dan, was there, while we have you moving, was there anything that you'd like to talk about beyond the craziness that we normally talk about? Like, what are you working on right now? Anything cool?
Well, I wanted to. All the topics that you discussed were the ones I wanted to jump in on. The TripAdvisor conversation, and I caught snippets of it, and I had the most amazing points that were they just don't fit now. But
actually, I think Dan freezes when he's making the best points.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
We need to have him just record his audio locally. We'll just load it up at the right time.
Yeah, we'll edit it back.
The neural. He's got like a shared neural interface sort of thing. So when his brain's really going to a great thought, it just pulls down the camera on the
puts
audio.
out an electromagnetic pulse that freezes his network. And
I wonder if it's a processor. Dan, what kind of laptop are you using? Just out of curiosity, I'm trying to isolate what might be the issues.
It's a HP EliteBook. It's the same one I used last time I was on, in the same location, on the same connection, and I had no problem.
It was fine. That's
maybe one of your kids are downloading like a large computer file or something.
I don't know. All I can say is on my little Surface Pro with just really kind of this and Evernote running, not really. Well, I got a browser window open for this, right? I've got 93, 95% CPU utilization, 75% of my memory's gotten used, and continuous 4 megabit per second. So this Webinar Jam is a total resource. Oh, and 45% on the GPU too, right? So it is a resource.
I have 64 gigs of RAM and 8 cores of processor, and this is the only thing I do that turns the fan on my computer.
Yeah.
Exactly. I get the hint. I will look for another platform that maybe not be Hog. I mean, we could try Zoom meeting or something like that, or we can try.
I don't know. I mean, we get great guests like Dan who actually could say something smart, and they get blown out because they haven't been on the platform long enough to know that you need to be running quantum computing to make it.
Hardlined into the internet backbone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with a category 3 on it or something. Yeah, to that end, Dan, I'm so sorry that we've been.
I think we should allow him to bow out, because the guy that has given us a ton of time, and my gosh, I really appreciate it. I wish our audience of 3 could have seen this. Go well.
Wait, where's the 3? Oh yeah, all 3 of us. Well, Stuart was here. That we actually technically had an audience of 4.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's nice. You can see the entire audience on the screen. So.
Stuart's like, I'm back. Yeah. We're 4. I'm back. We're 4 again.
Stuart's back. But yeah, Dan, thank you. I mean, again, if you've given us a great amount of time, and we're so sorry that the tech is bothering us. I will look at doing like a Ustream or something and see if we just have to bite the bullet and get a different platform for us to jump on. I mean, this works. We've been doing good. I'm just when Dan, for some reason, it was blinking out all of us there for a while too, which was weird. That hadn't happened in a long time. So I don't know. Right now we're going pretty good for it. But
hey, one thing you didn't put in the news, Robert. That's kind of big news. It has nothing to do with travel right now, but could be interesting, which is Black Panther will be shown in theaters in Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Yep, absolutely.
That's a
big, hey, women are driving in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, driving.
Big changes over there.
And if you're a hospitality marketer and you're not keeping tabs on that, you're going to miss opportunity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, anybody want to critique Expedia's new logo?
I like it.
You like it? Oh my God, really?
My son, I don't love it, but it's better than
son could have made that logo.
Male genitalia that Airbnb is.
Well.
I mean, let's be honest.
We're not comparing.
Airbnb wishes you would. Isn't that what you do when you put that out there?
That's an interesting response to the Rorschach test, Ed. We should
talk
more about
that. Male genitalia.
Tell me that's not that. I mean, come on.
I mean, not only was the logo to me was kind of meh, but the conversation that was had by the CEO was this demonstrated a lack of understanding of what a brand is. Like the brand is not the logo. That's just silliness, you know. And
he's a finance guy.
Yeah, I mean, it shows. It shows he's not a marketing guy. And
but did they keep the .com?
Well, this is the Expedia. What do they call it? Expedia
Group, right?
Group, right? Which
Expedia
is kind of like Booking Holdings or whatever. So I don't know. I think the challenge with
what were they going for? Retro? Some sort of retro?
Yeah,
this looks like a bad 70s font.
It does, but then they were saying, "Oh, we went lowercase because it's more accessible," and it's like, no,
more accessible.
Yeah,
no, but the
E
that's their logo.
Multiple Dan Waxmans. I don't know if you guys do, but I have two.
Wow. I'm just thankful it's not two Eds.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
there is two Eds.
He's in stereo. Wow, never saw that before.
No, that's clever.
That is very clever. No, but
there's one of them.
Hey, we're now ripping on Expedia's new logo, or the Expedia Group logo. Which I don't know. My point with it is, you look at all the letters. I mean, I don't know if this is a custom font and they built it themselves or God knows what, but you look at everything else and it's a very typical font, and then they've got this really funky E. Like the stylization of the D's and the A's just don't really go along with it at all.
I can guarantee you they overpaid for it. And Expedia's brand image, I think that because the consumer doesn't care about this, right? Consumers aren't even going to be exposed to this particular brand. This is more the umbrella company over Orbitz and Travelocity and Expedia and all those guys.
Well, it used to have kind of the script, right? It was like this thin kind of red, orangish Expedia.
But the problem I have with Expedia beyond that is that they don't differentiate the brands they own already, right? So if you go to Orbitz or Travelocity or Expedia, it's the same experience. There's no value proposition unique to each of those. Whereas if you look at Booking Holdings, Priceline and Booking and Kayak, and there are other entities, are different value propositions, different experiences. Look and feel and the value they provide to the consumer are different. Expedia doesn't get that. They've homogenized it all. And
but to be fair, every company they acquired was the same exact business model as them. And
but now they use the same template for the website.
You take the best of each of them and you kind of squish it all together and make a
and all they really care about are Expedia. They only really care about Expedia and Hotels.com, right?
And the lack of competition that exists from them acquiring.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and pulling in the Orbitz traffic and pulling in the Travelocity traffic and converting all that air booking into hotel.
Where Travelocity functions now from an architecture standpoint.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Travelocity, I always thought was so silly that they were owned by a company that at one point was the largest distributed computer system in the world, and yet their extranet could only handle 100 concurrent logins. Globally. Yep. And their employees had to use that login as well.
Yep. That's old school technology.
That was running on a PC that was overclocked to be a server.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Ugly
Lawrence
stuff.
Like overclocking. Good nerd.
My computers right now are definitely on overload as we simulcast on everything. That's for sure. What was the rut row? What was the rut row you had, Robert?
Oh, the rut row. Okay, the rut row. I love this rut row, and I'll try to do the short version, which I know is really difficult for me. But okay,
Short story long.
That's right, exactly. This guy in 2000 or 2001-ish, new with his company, goes to the Fairmont Empress Hotel, which is this great old hotel.
Beautiful hotel.
In Victoria, British Columbia, right on the harbor, just spectacular property. And he's new with the company. So he's also from the Canadian Navy sort of thing. He lives in Nova Scotia. So he brings a bunch of pepperoni for his Navy buddies who are based in Victoria. And he has like a suitcase of them, right? I mean, it's a lot. And whoever airline loses his bag, he gets it. And the stuff's supposed to be refrigerated. He doesn't have a refrigerator. So he decides, hey, it's cold outside. I'll just open the window. I'll lay this stuff kind of around the room. That's fine. And he goes out for a walk for 4 or 5 hours. Well, because it's on the harbor, what he didn't quite think about was there are seagulls who smell. I've heard from my cousins in Nova Scotia about this pepperoni. It's really good. So he comes back from his walk, opens his door, and much to his surprise, there are 40 seagulls in his room. And the way he writes this is he starts just mentioning that apparently this pepperoni disagrees with the digestive tract of these seagulls.
Oh no.
And so plus, okay, so then when he opens the room, he startles the 40 seagulls, which are now flying around. Some of them more aware ones are going out the open window. Others are crashing into the closed window, ripping the drapes, knocking over lamps, just crazy. So he finally gets all of them out. Oh, no. There's one.
Over one. Yeah.
No. There are two, actually. One is a seagull that is on the windowsill, so he throws his shoe at it, in which case he misses the seagull. The seagull does go out, but the shoe goes out the window, right? We'll get back to the shoe in a moment. So then there's one large alpha seagull who's like, there's pepperoni here. You're going to have to get me. He grabs a bath towel, gets the seagull, which is going nuts, throws it out the window, right? And so now he's done. There's a problem. This is the afternoon, and the Empress has high tea, which is very nice. And there's a group of tourists. He's on the 4th floor. And so the shoe has come down. And they're like, what? And probably, I don't know what the commotion with the seagulls flying out of his room are. Maybe that grabbed their attention. And then a seagull in a bath towel who can't fly, right? The seagull was okay. No animals were hurt in this experience.
Was this a Mr. Bean episode? I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Oh, no, it gets better, right? So he's then sitting there going, oh my God, he has a dinner he's got to go to. So he goes downstairs because he's got to retrieve, this is his shoes, his good like dress shoes or whatever. He grabs it. It has landed in like mud on a path, right? He gets his bath towel. And so it's covered. So he washes it off. But now he has one dark colored wet shoe and one light colored shoe. So he goes and he gets the hair dryer and puts it in the shoe, which is working well. It fits nicely. The shoes. No. Until the phone rings, he goes and is into the room to pick it up. In which case the lights go out because the hair dryer has fallen into his full sink because he was washing some of the stuff that had gotten messed up with all the seagull crap. Knocks out the power to, I don't know if it's the floor, several rooms, whatever. Now decides he needs help. Right. So he calls housekeeping, he gets his other shoe, all this stuff, and doesn't have the words to even talk to the housekeeper and just says, I'm sorry, and leaves and goes to dinner. Left to go to dinner. Right. So he comes back and his stuff he's been moved to another smaller room. Not only that, his company gets a letter, and remember, he's new with this company, from the Empress saying this man is banned for life. So that's the end of it. So the reason this came up is he recently sent the Empress a letter and said, hey, it's been 18 years. I'm very sorry. And that was it. He basically wrote the letter of here's what happened, right? And that's it. And the Empress actually, I think, shared a picture of the general manager sharing it with the desk clerks who are laughing hysterically at this whole thing. And they have rescinded the ban. He is now free, and since he's a repentant man, is now allowed back at the Empress Hotel.
Without pepperoni.
Without pepperoni.
Oh no! I forgot.
He
I forgot. He believes the reason they rescinded the ban was he sent a thing of pepperoni with his apology letter.
That guy is the hottest hot mess that has ever existed.
It's great.
My gosh, had internet been
I was going to say that
with
Can you
cameras,
like Instagram storied that whole.
Oh my gosh,
that'd have been great.
That would have gone viral.
I mean,
Just share.
Well, this letter went viral because
the letter went viral. Yeah, it was
crazy.
great. So that is the Ruh-roh.
Yeah.
And again, the hotel did the right thing. They didn't fine him, whatever. Probably a lot of money to. Who knows if they had to pull up the carpet.
Yeah.
That was a problem, right? They probably
And that
replaced
hotel is a beautiful hotel, and high tea is a big deal. There's a beautiful courtyard area in front of the hotel, so I can only imagine where the shoe may have gone. And at night it's beautiful too because they have all the little lights, the little white lights that they put around that really that all the building.
And the carcass of a bird wrapped in a towel hitting the ground. Was a statue of the high tea crowd.
I think the bird may have hit some people too.
Yeah,
I think
they said it wasn't hurt though; that it flew off.
Yeah, it was not hurt. Yeah,
that's good. Well,
but
I don't know if we can.
I wonder if there's an angle here that the Empress could take to get more legs out of this. Can they come out on top? You know, doing the kind of Ritz-Carlton type of thing. I don't know, but there's probably something they could have done to respond in this, other than just saying he can come back.
Invite him back. Yeah,
and make a joke of it in some way.
Have a stuffed seagull in his room.
Like no, not one.
Oh yeah,
like 40 stuffed seagulls. Yeah.
Welcome back. We wanted to recreate your experience before. We know it's
from a marketing point of view, you could obviously say that it's not just when you travel, it's not just where you stay; it's the stories that get created, good or bad. There's
Can you
there's
imagine?
Always a story.
Do you think the guy told the story at dinner, or do you think it was too fresh?
Oh no, I don't think he did. The way he wrote it, it was just like I can't deal with this. Like he's trying to make a good impression. He's a young guy. It was like his first week with the company, and it's like
but that's a sign,
company
man.
meeting.
You should not travel professionally if that's your first.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to go well from here.
Yeah, well, a lot of other people would have just left right then, never seen it. What happened to him? He's gone missing in Vancouver.
Yeah, I can find a new job. I don't need to come back.
You got to figure out for 18 years. Somebody's probably said, "Oh, I had this travel adventure." Like, "Oh no, wait, hold my beer. I'll tell you what's going to happen."
And his Navy buddies didn't get their pepperoni either. I mean, this is a disaster in every sort of aspect of it.
I think that was a good way to conclude our show. And I do. Dan, thank you so much for making the effort. I know it's doing it so early in the morning, and then have technical issues on top of that. But that was because you really probably could have add a heightened level of intelligence to our conversations that we just didn't have. Mr. Robert, if people want to know you and where to find you, where do they go?
Aside from timpeter.com, known as the PeterNet, you can find me at rockcheetah.com or Robert K. Cole.
And Mr. Ed, where can they find you and all about Flip2?
On the Timternet at www.flip.to. And you can find me on social, Edward St. Ange.
That's there. And Mr. Stewart, your podcast, and everything fantastic about Myrtle Beach and Fuel Travel.
I'm still on the old version of the internet, the pre-Timternet, but you can find us at
internet.
Yeah, we're at Fuel Travel everywhere on social, fueltravel.com. If you want to send us an email, it's info@fueltravel.com. And you can get the podcast at fueltravel.com/podcast as well.
And to be sincere, the two critical podcasts to listen to is definitely the Fuel Travel one and Tim's, because really great content. Compared to we're running all over this place.
But most importantly, if you have a full QWERTY keyboard and 13 minutes to spare, where should they go to find out about you?
Exactly.
I have this really short URL. Just takes a moment to type it in. It's at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com by the red stump by the left-hand side of the turn by the next. No, anyway, hospitality.com. hospitality.live will be the archive of all the live shows. Or in this episode will be hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/139, which makes our next week 140, which is kind of neat in that sense. We're coming up on our 3-year mark. We're coming up on our 3-year mark all too soon. So
that's every 10 episodes or so we come up to one with a round number.
I know, right? It's crazy.
That is weird.
It's crazy. Yeah. Who figured that out, right?
Never see that coming.
Just something I noticed. I don't know. So.
It seems like this pattern is coming out of all this stuff, but yeah, we're getting close to good anniversary stuff. But gentlemen, as always, thank you so very much for the time. I will actually look at an alternative service to see whether or not we can get this feed issue out of the way, because it is frustrating to have someone like Dan come in and then not be able to actually be able to converse with him regularly, because he really is exceptionally knowledgeable on a lot of stuff. So,
well, not just knowledgeable, because I mean, let's face it, Robert's knowledgeable, but Dan can speak. Robert,
he's still dogging you from that question. The first thing in the show, isn't he?
I have a question. The sky is blue. That is all.
No, you first have to discuss the color blue before you.
I just figured the context was important.
But in all of and come to Robert's defense, it is absolutely freaking amazing the data you pull out of your hat.
It is impressive.
Seriously,
well, at least it's out of my hat.
I picked it carefully.
Notice there isn't a hat on his head. However,
so maybe it came from somewhere else. I have several repositories I can draw from. So, yeah.
Repository or change another letter. Yeah, I'll go with that. All right, we're degrading. Gentlemen, thank you as always. I hope to see you all next week as well for show number 140. And as always, thank you very much for show number 139. Until next Friday, 11:30 Eastern. See everybody later.